Okay, so here we are in the last week, and what I've done is opened up the scene that you will be provided, which just has some kind of cameras, shaders, and some material nodes, just because it's kind of repetitive work that, it's not really necessary for you to just copy me doing. So we've provided these two, so we've got some cameras here with different angles and different animations provided with some motion effects applied to a few of them. In the shop context, we can see we've got all our Arnold materials set up. Nothing too complex, but it's just handy to send these over because obviously there's a lot of them. And for things like, if I can find one, maybe on the plate here, you can see we've got textures set up. So it'll take a while to, to do all of this. And then here, the material nodes, we've got these material nodes for setting, connecting up the materials to the geometry, okay, creating that shop material path. So I'm going to drag this over. I've got two screens here, but you can, just have your two scenes side by side. I'm going to drag this over to my other screen. And then here are my project scene. Let's go into the shop context, okay, not the matte context. You can do, you can use them interchangeably, really, they're both the same. But ours are set up in the shop context, so you need to set them up in there so that everything works. So I'm just going to copy all of the material nodes from there. Just literally Control-C, come here, Control-V, and drop them in, okay? So if I go back to that plate there, and we look at the texture, you can see here we follow the hip variable, and then that's going to take me into my project folder, and then it's going to look for a TX folder, and then vehicles, and then this this file, okay, which we don't have at the moment. So in our folder, if I drag it across, we have text, okay, and this is looking for TX. So we need to drag in. You'll also be provided this other folder, if I just find that. Okay, folder called TX. So you literally just need to drag that into your bridge destruction or whatever you called it into the project folder. So just drag and drop that folder and copy to bridge destruction and let go there. And that will drop the texture folder in there. And we dive inside and you can see we've got the same thing. We've got vehicles, and then a Volvo, something or other. There, it's all there. Okay, so yeah, very important in the shop area, and to drop that TX folder into your project area. Okay, I think you can check your variables. If we go to edit, and if I remember, aliases and variables. And then you can go to variables and see hip, and you can see there the destination. That's where $hip will go on my computer. Okay, so also into that folder, if we just bring that back, we also need the HDR. So I'm going to drop in here. We don't have a HDR folder by default, so I'm just going to drag and drop again HDR folder, and then if you dive inside there, you'll have two HDRs. The .tx is just the Arnold. If you only have this file, then it will create this automatically for you. Okay, and then I'm going to find my other Houdini scene again. Okay, and go. So we got all the shop nodes. Let's drag in all the cameras. So Control-C, Control-V, and there we go. So when I copied that, just copy the whole thing. It makes it easier. So cameras are all set up. There we got different kind of animations with some. You can't see it. Maybe if there we go. You can see that's working fine. And then finally, head inside that material nodes geometry node, and then copy all of that. I'm just going to copy actually the whole material nodes object node. Okay, so copy this thing inside, dive inside there. Okay, I'm going to go back to the first frame and then set this to manual and turn the simulation off. I don't want to we're done simulating now. We're just looking at rendering and lighting and so forth. So we're just going to grab it. I think we actually need those two. What we need first are these. Okay, so Control C on all of these here. So where it starts with the actual names of the cars and in the lighter kind of red color there. So copy them, dive into cars, go right to the beginning. Control V, paste these in. And then we're just going to drop these in. So you can see they match up, Audi, and then just drop it into there. This one, the Volvo, we didn't end up using, so just skip that. Volkswagen with the Volkswagen, the Transporter, and the truck. Okay, we'll come back to this because this needs to filter all the way through, you know, into our file there, into our cache. We don't need to simulate again, but we do need to kind of run through some of that process again. It shouldn't take too long. But before we do that, let's just dive here and then, no, we'll do it later actually. We'll do the cars now and then we'll connect the, there's materials for the bridge, but we'll do that after. So yeah, unfortunately we do need to kind of run through this again. Well, let's set this to auto update. So if I press escape, because it's gonna try to read that geometry. There we go. Okay, so we'll come here to start. There we go. Let's turn the lighting off and materials. We don't need to see anything. Okay, and we just got the cars again, all overlapped. So go down to the first kind of area where we're caching. So all the way through here. I think it's through to that first simulation. So let's bring it to here first. There we go. Okay, and then down to, so this time shift is about 20 frames into that sim, so we will have to simulate this again, unfortunately. But this sim is really quick, it didn't take long at all. So come down here and click this brain icon thing to start the simulation again. There we go, so that's done. So just to double check that nothing's actually changed to our sim other than that shop material attribute. If we look at our cache, you can see they're the same. Okay, so now I'm just going to save over that. So save to disk, and that will overwrite what we had before. And then we're going to run all the way through this again. Again, this for each does take a bit of time. Now we also, what I'm going to do is come to this part before the RBD configure. So after this point, the cars are packed, and I want to set a color attribute to the cars before they are packed, so that later we don't have to unpack them. So I'm going to come to this RBD unpack and visualize that and let that run through. Okay, there we are, that's all done. I'm just going to turn that off. Kind of annoying me. I'm going to set this to manual again because it seems to be going a bit slow there. So, and then set up this color variation. So at the moment we just got red and white cars. But what we want is a kind of variation of color. So thinking about generally, you know, the colors that people buy cars in. So there's going to be a lot of black, a lot of white, and then a few other primary colors, but less of them. So we're going to set up an attribute to drive the CD, the color attribute on these cars. Okay, so first I'm just going to drop an attribute randomize. Okay, we're not actually going to randomize the color here directly. We're going to set I'm going to do this on the primitives, I think. Yeah, because we already have color on the because I need the name attribute, right? So we're gonna do this on the primitives because we need to use the name attribute, which is on the primitives, as a seed. Okay, so name here. So each car has its own name, right? And the name, we're gonna make a new attribute. It doesn't really matter what you call it, but I'm gonna call it color ramp. But remember what you call it. And is going to be one-dimensional, so just a float, and the values will be between 0 and 1. Okay, let me just set that to auto update. And then go into the geometry spreadsheet. So on the primitives, you can see we've got that color ramp. So for each individual name, we've got an individual value between 0 and 1, a random value between 0 and 1. Okay, so we're not going to color those cars with those numbers. We're going to drive a ramp. Okay, as you can guess by the name of that. So this color ramp, I'm just going to copy the name there, come into color, and then I'm going to delete all existing color attributes. We're going to leave it on the point. We're going to generate a ramp from attribute. And that attribute, well, if we connect it up, it should just pick it up anyway. If we come in here, oh, we need to, this is on the primitives because we needed that name attribute. So if I drop an attribute promote here, okay, and then find, so it's going to be from primitive to point, and it was color ramp. Okay, come down here, and hopefully there we go, I can find that color ramp. There you can see it's working already. So values with 0 will be black and values with 1 will be white. So now we can just set up some colors along here. So I'm going to click this to give me some more control. So I'm going to have this one is going to be like a red. We'll come back and configure these a bit more a bit later. I'm going to have another one which is going to be a yellow, another one which will be a blue, something like that, and then we'll have a black, and then some kind of gray a bit further up here like that. And then we'll leave the last one white, okay? And so we don't get all these weird blends, okay? We want like some cars to be red, some to be yellow, some to be blue. We need to just change the interpolation of these. So the first one, I'm gonna set this to constant and just change the color a bit. So I'm gonna bring this down so it's not so, I'll just type it in. Something a bit darker like that. The next one, the yellow, just change where it is, 0.07, set this to 0.5, 0.25, and again set this to constant. Okay, so there we get that chunk, and you can see we get a number of cars with the same color. Now there's blue. Move it back a little, and the color, I'm gonna just soften that a bit or darken it a bit like that. Okay, and then the black and the gray and white, that should be fine. We'll just get, I'm gonna leave these because, you know, it's nice to have a gradient of some grays and some whites. Okay, but then we got some blues, some yellow, but all of the yellow cars will be the same yellow, all of the red cars will be the same red, basically. So there we are. Now we connect this into our RBD configure, and that will pack all this color in, and then when we come to render this, they'll be unpacked by the render engine and it will read these color values. Okay, and now we're not going to simulate again, we just dive straight through to here. In fact, no, we won't do it. So if we come down here, visualize this, it will read the cache. There we are. And then you can see all we have to do is come to save this rest geometry. Don't save the simulation again. We don't want to simulate again. We just need that first frame for the rest geometry. So save that to disk. I've already done it before, that's why mine are, you know, the same color already, but you'll see yours as in a different color, and then once you save it, it will update and you'll have these reds and yellows and grays and blues. There we go, and then just make sure we save our scene before we move on.